Then I'll leave it there. I think I've said too much. Anyway, but it's nice to have you on the show. In fact, the last time we were having a conversation, I was asking about what you were doing recently, what you dedicated your time to. You said you were much more busy now, doing a lot of things and consulting for many countries and institutions. Do you find it rewarding?
Yeah, I find it very rewarding and refreshing, especially where you think your country does not need you and you keep receiving requests from all around the world that come and help. You are like, oh, okay. So I'm not useless after all.
Oh, you felt useless at the time?
Of course, when you think you are still in the term of your office, and then the leadership of the government bulldoze its way, abuse all the laws that exist, and throw you out and say that go on leave. I think I have the Guinness Book of Record. I think of going on 167 working days leave. You thought that maybe you are not needed. All of a sudden, you start receiving requests from across the globe, come and help. It is quite heartwarming.
I- I'm wondering exactly what they ask you to help them with.
The very things that I've been doing here, I've been helping them with public financial management reform, basically supporting a lot of the Supreme Audit institutions at times the controls within their financial management system. I will very soon go to the Caribbean and help to look at the controls in their public financial management system and make recommendations how to improve upon it. So it is the same type of things that I was doing here, which offended people so much. Is what people are asking me, come and help. We want to improve our system.
And once you're offering that service to those who are asking you that to other countries, do you feel our public financial management system is in the shape that helps at least to ensure that we're getting value for money? What is spent is what is reflected. That we can properly account for all the monies we are getting. Because recently there's even been an argument about the loans we've gotten, what they have been spent on, and everything. Is always in the shape that can ensure that we get a full value.
Not at all. If you are familiar with the literature on public financial management, especially as put together by World Bank and IMF, there is a concept called public expenditure and financial accountability. In short, they call it PIFA. In the concept of PIFA, if you have a good public financial management system, it must lead up to some three outcomes. Outcome number one is fiscal responsibility. That is, we must live within our resources. Now we are being overshadowed by debt, which means that we are not fiscally responsible as required of us. Two, there must be strategic allocation of resources. Then I think you are best placed to ask you to tell me if we are strategic in our resource allocation. Look at the pitch that has been dug in the ministry area called Cathedral. Is that how we strategically allocate resources in a country that is in so much need? The third is improved service delivery. So as you spend more money, you must ensure that there is a compensating increase in service delivery. Are we getting better healthcare? Are we getting better education? Are we getting good roads? Look at the flood swallowing people in Accra and everywhere. So these three are the outcomes. But currently, some of us are pushing for a fourth outcome, which is even overriding the first three, which is you can't say you have a good public financial management system when there is corruption or corruption is not reduced to the barest minimum. You can say I'm managing my funds very well, but people are stealing it. So if you look at these four indicators, all of them show that our public financial management is not healthy in the country.
I understand the first three. First, living within our means. Of course, you have pointed to the fact that within Ghana currently, by our debts, we are clearly not living within our means. And I'll come back to that issue. The strategic allocation of resources, the improving service delivery. But how can you reduce corruption within the scheme of public financial management? What do you put in place to do that?
Yeah, what we put in place is called internal control. We have a lot of rules and regulations to reduce abuse of public funds. That is the reason why government doesn't wake up and say we are using public funds. Because the constitution requires us to submit a budget to parliament which will be scrutinized, and you get approval from parliament in the form of the Appropriation Act, which is a mandate to use the budget or the funds of the public. Then there are laws like the Public Financial Management Act, which prescribe how you use the money. There is also Public Procurement Act, which also prescribes how you go about with procurement-related activities. There are internal audit offices established by Internal Audit Act, which is supposed to ensure that rules and regulations are complied with. The audit service has also been established, or the Office of the Auditor General has been established by Article 187, which gives him the Auditor General the mandate to audit and ensure that everything is above board. So these are all controls in place. And at the end of the day, the audit report goes to Parliament, and Parliament is supposed to set up a committee to look at it, which is usually the Public Accounts Committee. All these systems must work together to ensure that our monies are used well. But if these institutions are there and they cannot function as expected or as required of them, then you can be sure that we have created a waste pipe. You will be spending so much money, but what to show for it becomes a problem.
Like you said, all the institutions are there. You said if they do not work together, why is it difficult to get this institution to do exactly what they are supposed to do for us to get the value for money that you talk about? Because you worked in the Control and Accountant General Department before you became the Auditor General. Why is there difficulty to get that done efficiently?
Yes. Ordinarily, you may expect that these institutions to work together for the good of the country. I normally refer to the budget cycle as accountability cycle, because Parliament approves the budget, Minister of Finance disburses it, Accountant General makes the payment, internal auditors ensure that things are going well, external auditor come later on, identify any infractions and report it to Parliament, and people are held accountable, etc. But you find out that this is the work rather in silos instead of working together. Even working in silos is an understatement. At times they work against each other, especially the anti-graft institutions, which have been created on top of all this. You find out that they are conflicting each other, undercutting each other, and at times one is even used against the other one. So that is the problem, especially if you are not in line with the thinking of the government. Most of the time, you find yourself at the other side. So that is the unfortunate situation we find ourselves, because public servants are not independent minded, and they don't think that their loyalty is to the country. They see their loyalty to the presidency or the government instead of the country. So that is our problem.
Loyalty to the government instead of the country. Was that why you suffered?
But that is, I call it occupational hazard. You cannot do the right thing in this world and always enjoy. There is always the cost to it. So people who are going into public service must be ready to do the right thing and face the consequences. I tell people that most of the time People think that when you are in public office, it must be rosy. No, it is not. You are going to serve the public interest, and this affects individuals who also want to abuse their offices. And you must hold them accountable. And like I say time and again, anytime you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. Whether you are right or wrong, corruption will fight you, and it fights in any way that it can, and it fights everybody without exception. So that should not be the problem. You may have to decide whether you are ready to face the challenges of the office or you don't go at all. It's as simple as that. Once you accept it, you must go. I always liken the public office to other public offices like being a policeman. You know that being a policeman, you can be called upon by the inspector general or your superior and say, there are armed robbers over here, go and arrest them. You may come back alive or dead, but that is your job. You must just do it. Thank you.
So you actually expected the fight back?
Of course, I said it long ago before it started. I always said it that once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you. And let me be honest with you, I knew it was going to fight me because my previous experiences tells me that corruption will fight back. And I was in another African country where there was a corruption case, a very grand one, involving the people at the top. And the director in charge of anti-corruption was being prevailed upon to cover the top men and hold some junior officers accountable or use them as a scapegoat. He had a meeting with me, and I encouraged the gentleman. I said, look, put your national interest first. Put your country first. Don't bow to whatever inducement they are giving you or bribe they are offering you. They are even going to make him an ambassador and give him some huge amount of money so that he can settle outside the country. I said, don't take it. Put your country first. This young man listened to me. When he was going out of my office, he stood at the door, turned and looked at me and said, sir, I'll put my country first. Then, as you know, less than 30 minutes, I had information that the gentleman had been kidnapped at his gate. He was going out, and 3 gunmen accosted him and took him away. About 2 hours later, we had the news he had been killed. And interestingly, they sent him to a government office from there before he died on his way. So I knew what was in store for me. And I knew the role of the Auditor General. When I was an Accountant General, anytime we were blaming the weaknesses of the public financial management system, I did not hesitate in blaming the Auditor General. Because I said, apart from all the controls, the one who has the highest hammer or tool to ensure discipline is the Auditor General. Because Clause 7 of Article 187 mandates him to disallow any expenditure he thinks is contrary to law and protect people. If that is being done judiciously, there will be discipline in the system. So I knew there was nothing new to me.
So by that experience, you knew in fact, the sacrifice could go as far as your life.
Of course, yes. I knew very well.
But you're ready to push it, to do your job.
So now, if nobody does it, who will do it? And let me say again that when I was working outside the country, I was working with several auditors general. And anytime any country was changing their law regarding to public sector auditing, I will pick Article 187 of our Constitution and show them. And say, look at this mandate, which allows the Auditor General to disallow inspectors. It is the best mandate you give to the Auditor General. So several countries, including Liberia, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Zambia, South Africa, Kenya, Malawi, all of them put that into their laws. But unfortunately, most of the Auditor General were afraid implementing it, even though the law mandated. So when I was appointed, I said it's time for me to live by example, for Auditors General to know that if you have a mandate, you must carry it out. And I did.
Because typically, Auditor Generals are Usually just do their audits, put the report out, the politicians argue over it, really, public accounts committee, and if the public accounts committee does not actually try to recover some money, it usually doesn't amount to anything. All we do is that we know that the man stole the money. But you came up, especially after that judgment that enforced your mandate to surcharge. Your approach was far more different, a bit more frontal. You were taking on people within the government, and people felt, hey, this man, why? Is he not afraid or anything? Did you feel people around you think you shouldn't have gone that way, that we're going too far?
Very much. Too many people thought I was going beyond what I should do. And I remember when I started work, I had a management meeting with my immediate deputy and told them that, look, if you read Article 187, we are doing only part of what we are required to do. That is to do audit and submit a report to Parliament. It does not end there. If you get to 7, it says that whenever you come across any item of expenditure, which is contrary to law, disallow and take that. But we have not been doing that. I was told I have some learning to do because the Auditor General has been doing that all these years. I said, oh, that's good. Let me see evidence of it. And they said, it is all over in the audit report. And I said, no. Give me the Audit Services Act. And I opened to section 17. And I said that according to this section 17, anytime the disallowance and surcharge is being enforced at court, the certificate issued by the Auditor General will be a prima facie case. Can you show me a copy of the certificate? Do you have the certificate? That is when my people got to realize that no, we couldn't use the audit report as a certificate. So we decided to go about it and learn how to do it. But you see, the Auditor General is not a friend or is not an enemy to any public servant. He is just to ensure that the rules are complied with. And if you go contrary to the rules, he corrects it and safeguard and protect the public space. So if the Auditor General fails to disallow and surcharge the enforcement given to him or her in the Constitution, then it's not too different from you, the journalist, isn't it? It's the same thing you also do. You also report a lot of infractions, is that not it? So we should not waste too much money on the service there. But our job is to hold people accountable, address infractions as the need arises.
And haven't told them that, because that sounded like perhaps a different direction from what they were used to. Were they comfortable with it?
Not at all. They were not comfortable at all. And I also remember I was told that one of the former auditors general, Professor Diajimai, once disallowed and surcharged somebody in, I think, lotteries, a Department for National Lotteries case. And the case was thrown away because the court did not believe that that was the mandate of the Auditor General. And I said, no, I don't believe that. I looked for the case and read it and said, no. There were witnesses here. That is not what the court said. However, not long, about a month or two, the judgment came in Occupy Ghana with the Attorney General, where the Supreme Court unanimously said that this is required of the Auditor General. They did not only conclude that way, they went ahead and gave consequential orders to the Auditor General and said, anytime you come across this, you must do this. So I told them, guys, now we cannot do otherwise. You were referring to a case which went to a high court, which even I disagree with your interpretation about what the court said. But now the Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter, has come in and said, this is what we should do, and we must do it. So we have to do it.
You must have left a lot of people uncomfortable at the Auditor General's department.
That one you are very, very right on it. Very, very right.
Hmm. You mentioned the name of Professor Diajiman. He was the boss chair of the audit service, right?
Yes, he became the board chair of the audit service and thought it was his second coming as a senior auditor general. He confused the role of the board and that of the auditor general.
He confused the two roles.
Oh,
That he
yes.
thought he was actually the auditor general.
Yes,
Why do you say so?
because he was interfering with my activities. When even I draw his attention, it doesn't seem to occur to him. So I constantly reminded him that you are a board chairman, you are not the auditor general. And this board, together with you, have no mandate in Ghana to do audit or supervise audit. So stop talking about audit. You have no right to interfere. But he started interfering, as a result of which I even petitioned the office of the president to inform the president that your chairman is interfering with my constitutional mandate. The presidency came and deceived the whole world that they set up a committee chaired by the secretary to the president, Nana Asante Bekir. Up to today, I don't know whether today, this morning, or this afternoon, that committee will sit and call me. So he was seeing himself as auditor general instead of board chairman.
The committee set up by the president never called you. Did you see a report anyway?
The committee never called me. I've never seen their report either.
Can I ask a question? Because there are many occasions when you speak to public officers who attempt what you attempt, who tell you a story about when they realized that they were in real trouble, confrontations among others. Did you have experiences that really told you that this may be the beginning of the end for me in this office if these people are able to carry through what they are thinking?
Yes, I knew. Because there were a series of confrontations or issues which told me that no, this man is here to frustrate me. And I petitioned the presidency, and even the president or presidency was quiet, so I knew a challenge was coming. The first confrontation came when I sent a team to go and audit national health insurance. Then Diajiman came in to say that one Dr. Yawano, who was then the chief executive, had come to him to say that the team had raised some audit observations and he was not comfortable with them. So he, the chairman, should intervene. And I said he should back off. He had no right and mandate to supervise audit or to conduct audit. So why would he go in there? Even me as an auditor general, I will not interfere with the audit process. The process must end, and we will see the observations raised and the answers provided. That will determine whether the issue will be taken forward or not taken forward. He was not happy. He wrote the entire board and said he wanted to intervene, and I stopped him. So the board should come in. When he did that, he attached a copy of the audit observations, which are confidential documents, and sent that to the board. The next day, I was driving to the office when I got a call from, I think, CTFM or one of them. I'm not too sure whether it's JFM or CTFM. I got a call, and they wanted us to discuss the audit observations. And I said, no, audit observations, I don't have them because they are issued by the team. I don't issue observations, so I don't know what you are talking about. By the way, for me to know what exactly you are talking about, can you share with me what you have? So they forwarded it to me. When I received it, then I saw that it was the observations that were attached to the memo of Diajiman and sent to the board because it has a stamp, the same stamp that National Health Insurance stamped on the memo or the observation receiving it. It was exactly the same thing. So then I knew there was going to be a problem. I didn't think it was going to go far. I went for a program in Kumasi a few weeks later. When I reached, what do you call it? What those days we call Golden Tulip now, I've forgotten Lancaster or whatever they call it now. I went there to take breakfast. I saw Madam, the chief of staff, Frema, I saw her seated looking at the door. So our eyes met, and I went to greet her. And she said, please take a seat by me. I want us to have discussion. He told the others to excuse her. And he said, my people say you are working against her. What is it that you are doing against her? And I said, Madam, if you are a bit more specific, then I will understand what you are saying. And she said, I'm told you are auditing National Health Insurance. You say you are auditing from 2012, 2018 or thereabouts, but then you are only focusing on 2017, 2017 and 18, which is our period. So you went under the disguise that you are auditing about 6 or 7 years. Meanwhile, your concentration is only on 1 or 2 years, which is our period. And you have raised very damning findings. So I said, Madam, God is wonderful. When coming to Kumasi, it is just that morning that I received the copy of the draft audit report, which I was supposed to review. And I was reviewing it on my way coming to Kumasi. Now, when I reached the hotel, I should have left the report in the car. But I said, no, this report is sensitive. I don't want my policeman or driver to look at it. So I took it. So I was holding it. So I said, Madam, to clear your doubt, I will show you just the summary. So the summary page, I said, look at the items. There were about 35 or 36 observations. Out of the 35 or 36 thereabout observations, 30 of them was up to 2016. It is only 4 or 5 which covered 2017 and 2018. So where am I? Where is the targeting that you are talking about? Except that even though there were only 4 observations for your period, the amount involved is far more than the 30 other observations. That one is true. But for these 4, there will have been nothing in the current regime. And that is what Yaw not wanted to prevent, but could not prevent it. It is that case which went to court when I disallowed and censured Zoom Lion. And Zoom Lion filed a suit against me, and the case went to the High Court. The High Court ruled in my favor. So the High Court said, go and pay the money. But then the Zoom Lion lawyers now appeal to the Court of Appeal, challenging the original jurisdiction of the Auditor General, not the searcher. The powers of the Auditor General does not extend to we, the private sector people. And the Court of Appeal said, well, that is an interpretation of the Constitution, so it is within the yard of the Supreme Court. So they took it to the Supreme Court. It went to the Supreme Court, and through my lawyers, I told the Supreme Court that you don't need to interpret this because you interpreted this already in Occupy Ghana, this is Attorney General, where you define person to include public officers and others. That is non-public office holders. That is private sector persons and entities. It is clearly stated in your report already. Therefore, you don't need to interpret again. But well, the Supreme Court felt it was necessary to interpret. So now the interpret is to say that yes, the mandate covers the private sector only when fraud is established. And we argue that fraud is not in the Constitution. They are importing a new word or offense into the Constitution. It's not there. The Constitution didn't mention that. So we don't see that interpretation appropriate. But well, their decision was final. So they ruled that the mandate was not invoked because the trial judge did not find Zoom Lion culpable of committing fraud. So he was left off the hook. It was at the same time that Grow and Associate and Osafumafu case was also ongoing. So you can see a board chairman, and then let me tell you this, you can see a board chairman for audit service. When we go to court, he is in court representing the person I said that. He represented Osafumafu. Anytime Osafumafu could not go to court, it was Viajima who was there to represent him. So when you can see, I knew that there was going to be a problem. And I thought maybe the office of the president may be level-headed to do the right thing or be minded to do the right thing. I contacted them by petitioning them. Nothing happened. So I knew there were things in store for me.
I see. Well, but I want to go back to the Cole and Associate matter. Were you happy with how it all concluded?
Not at all. In fact, that is one of the saddest things that has ever happened in public financial management. Because if you see or you read the disallowance and sectors that I issued, we raised several issues. We mentioned the fact that the auditors say they could not see work done for which payment was done. That was one of our issues. The second reason we raised was that there was infringement of the public procurement law because, forget about the work done, assuming the work was actually done, which we don't agree to, the payment was done before the agreement was signed. When the audit observations was issued, it was then that they signed an agreement. And the agreement was signed. When it was queried, then they went to Public Procurement Authority and ADIJ gave them approval. So they were operating in a reverse order. Make payment, enter into agreement. After agreement, you go for approval to enter into agreement. Again, if you look at the approval which was given by ADIJ, because they were in a hurry, they didn't think through, then the approval was to Kandapa, National Security, not the senior minister. So the question I was asking is that, can Ghana Education Service use approval from National Health Insurance? It is not done. So this approval was not even for the senior minister. So how come he was able to use that approval? So from my point of view, it was wrong. But all that were put aside by the judge who wanted to know if we were ready to go back and look at the work done. And I made it clear to Justice here that if he asked me to go back and look at the work done, to be setting a very bad precedent, and that should not be entertained. What it will mean is that anytime you do an audit and you go to a school or a hospital and they are supposed to buy a vehicle and the vehicle has not been bought and the money has been taken out and you couldn't find the proceeds of the procurement and you disallow and surcharge, they will come to court later on and say now the vehicle has come to come and do or continue the audit, which is wrong. But then they raised another issue. The issue they raised was that, again, there were issues of national security, national interest, as a result of which they did not show as evidence of the work done by Pro and associates. And Justice Atia said, well, if we are talking about issues of national security or national interest, the Constitution provides that it is the mandate of the Supreme Court. So that case was also referred to the Supreme Court, if you remember, because they were supposed to determine whether there was actually national security issues or issues of national interest. So we went to the Supreme Court. And our argument to the Supreme Court was that the argument about issues bordering on national security was purely an afterthought. It was never true. Why did I say this? One, we proved to the court that when the audit observations were raised to the Ministry of Finance in January 2018, their response had nothing to do with national security. They said they were looking for the evidence and they will bring it. Two, 3 months later, when the management letter is like a draft audit report, when the management letter was issued, which again, Section 29 of the Audit Service Act provides that you have 30 days to respond to, Ministry of Finance responded by saying that they are contacting the senior minister so to get the information for us. They didn't raise any issue of national security. Three, I issued the audit report in June 2019 to Parliament. In August, I don't know what happened. The senior minister himself wrote to me telling me that, oh, Crow and Associates have been doing the work and blah, 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 blah. And he never mentioned any issue of national security. It is only when the disallowance and surcharge occurred before they talked about national security. So it was an afterthought. So the court they put it aside. But then we also argue again that he does it. Let's even assume that it's bordered on national interest or national security. Which law exempted national security from audit? It is also our question. Because we audit even the national security and the presidency all. So how come they say it's bordering now on national security that we cannot audit it? And according to the evidence given by a senior minister, some of that evidence has been given to Bank of Ghana, some to the Ministry of Finance, some to Cocoa Board. These were all auditees of the Auditor General. How can all these people see issues bordering on national security and the Auditor General, who even audits the Office of the National Security Coordinator and the institution, cannot see it? But in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, they asked if it would be okay with me to go and see the work done. And again, I responded in the negative to say, no, it is wrong and it will be a bad precedent through my lawyers. And they rose and went away for about 15, 20 minutes. They came back and said that in their wisdom, they have decided to instruct the senior minister to give the evidence of work done to the Auditor General, and they are giving Auditor General 10 days, 10 working days to come back to the Supreme Court to tell the Supreme Court whether I was satisfied with work done or not. My lawyer stood up, they told him to sit down. My respected friend, Justice John Doche, who was in the sitting chair, he would not even listen to my lawyer. So the court ended the case, and I was given 10 days. On the 5th day, the president wrote that to go on my leave, the 157 days leave. And my deputy was illegally appointed as the acting Auditor General. The following day, he wrote to the senior minister to say he is satisfied with evidence of work done. So the Supreme Court now wrote to the court of the High Court to say that Auditor General is now satisfied with evidence of work done. Then the peer said, based upon that, then he is putting the disallowance and surcharge aside. And he had forgotten the procurement breaches, the breaches in the Public Financial Management Act. We also cited Article 181 to say it's a foreign transaction, so it should have also gone to Parliament. The judge forgot about all that and disallowed my disallowance. So that is what happened, and I felt very peace. And fortunately, I was not in office. If I were in office, I would have appealed that decision and say this is not right. You go back to the Supreme Court and see what they will do again. But well, I must say that it's public service. You can only do what your mandate allows you to do. Thank you.
Having gone through all this, if we were to share some, what do they call it, what you've learned, lessons from being in that office, what would they be?
Well, the first lesson is that once you sit in that office as Auditor General, you must be committed to serve the country, not the people. Second, the lesson I learned was that if you are serious about fighting corruption, then we must fight it at the top, not at the bottom. Because in public financial management, it storms at the top and drizzles at the bottom. So when you go down there looking for headmasters, you are even wasting our money. Can you imagine, Jenna, sometimes they say some people could not account for 3,000, so they are brought down from Bolga or from a Western region to come to public accounts. And even their transportation and accommodation at the end of the day may be 3 times or 4 times the money that they could not account for. But millions and millions of dollars are being embezzled at the top. So if you want really to fight corruption and ensure that there's a healthy public financial management, you hit the top and it will cascade down to the lower levels. And the final lesson is that, is what I've already mentioned. Once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. And one should not be worried about that. It is part of the occupational hazard.
Now, there are two things I want to take your opinion on before I let you go. One, you were in the Accountant General's department. I don't know if you heard about the conduct of until recently, he was the Accountant General. He picked up forms to contest the MPP primaries, stayed in office, went through the process, went to contest, lost, and still stayed in office. Did you feel that was healthy?
In fact, Bosompim is my friend. He has been my colleague for about 18 years. We worked together in Accountant General's department. When I heard of it, I didn't believe it at all. Until later on, the information coming out, I say, hey, this is actually true. Because there is a law, I think the Civil Service Act or Political Office Act, I've forgotten the name of the title of the law, which prohibits civil servants from participating in political activity positively. And there's a judgment from the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court says that nothing stops a civil servant from contesting political office, but you can't do both. Once you want to do a politics, you must vacate the civil service. I hope when I say civil service, you understand, because many people don't know the difference between public service and civil service. Public service is the universal service. The Ghana Police Service, the Education Service, Fire Service, Civil Service, Audit Service, Judicial Service, they all come together to form public service. But then civil service is a subset. Audit service is a subset. So I'm talking about civil servants, not public servants. So there was a decision of the Supreme Court which identified some of the public services, including civil service, and say they cannot. And Accountant General is part of the civil service. Actually, it's a department of the Ministry of Finance. So it is a core portion, a core member of the civil service. When I joined Accountant General in the 90s and 2000 thereabouts, anytime the head of civil service was out of the country, it was the Accountant General who acted as the head of civil service. So he's a core civil servant. So for him to play politics and go back and see there, I found it a bit disturbing. But I'm told the case is in court or something like that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's not go too much into it. Let's hear what the court has to say again about it.
And then the second one, you are quoted to have said this, and this is about the government, this current government, said their disrespect for the rule of law, and they will speak the law as if others have no brains. The way they even talk about the law and the way they do things and speak with arrogance, it beats my mind. Did you say this, and what particular experience made you come to this conclusion?
Well, several issues. If you remember, in my own case, when the presidency came and said, take the leave, I drew their attention that even though you are referring to Section 30 of the Labor Act, you forgot that Section 27 said that give 30 days notice to the worker before he goes on a leave. So assuming even you have the mandate to force me on leave, the law says if you are going to send a worker or a laborer on leave, give him or her 30 days. Why are you giving me 48 hours, 2 hours, 2 days for me to go? So that is contrary to law. And I also drew attention to the fact that the Constitution says when I'm doing my work, you cannot control or direct me. I was in the process of auditing the financial year 2019, which has just ended. You remember the directive came around June, and we were auditing, and we were trying to interfere, so you cannot do this. So stop it. They responded by telling me that I can be forgiven because I'm not a lawyer. My appreciation of the law does not seem to be correct. So that was the case, and we went to Supreme Court later on, and the Supreme Court says, I who doesn't know the law, I'm rather right They're the ones who claim they know the law, they are wrong. And again, when I was pursuing senior minister, the, the government used Yoko to come after me. Yoko, who does not have the right or the mandate to investigate procurement and procurement related offenses, came on my back that I had done some procurement which I was not even a party to it. And I was even explaining to Yoko that look, one, it doesn't fall within your mandate because the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act has taken that mandate away to the Special Prosecutor. So it doesn't fall within your mandate. Two, if you are knowledgeable in the Procurement Act, the independent constitutional body, the law excludes the head of the entity from the entity tender committee. So I'm not a member of the entity tender committee. I didn't approve the procurement plan. I didn't award the contract. I was not involved anywhere. The minutes, etc., are there. But I was the one who was detained and needed a key from my driver before I could go. The people who were members of the committee, none of them were detained. It is only when I came on Joy FM and criticized Yoko before they invited my deputy again and granted her a bill and said, look at this idiot. You see, so the point I'm making is that for us, government to be seen as the person or the people who are the forefront of implementing the laws and respecting the laws, they rather disregard the law and they do a lot of gaslighting. I hope you know what you call gaslighting. The guy is inflicting pains on you and they speak in a way such that you feel that you are not appreciating the good that they are doing to you by inflicting pain on you. And I find that behavior of government very disturbing. When they speak, it's as if we are idiots. We cannot understand English. We can't see through their actions. And that's why I made that statement.
I said two things, but if you've ever had an interview with me, you know that sometimes things come up. But I just wanted to find out whether you have any sympathies for the man who has the same acronym as the office you held. In fact, Auditor General is AG. Attorney General is also AG. What do you think about the issues being raised against him, being someone who always insisted on being ethical and acting ethically whilst holding public office?
Well, to be honest with you, I am rather confused and tempted not to believe what I'm hearing. Because if what is being said is true, then the ethics that you talked about is nothing to write home about. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, the truth will come and you will know what exactly the situation is. But what I'm reading at the moment, I find it a bit disturbing. In my candid opinion, if you are appointed to the office of Attorney General, if you are appointed to the office of Auditor General, if you are appointed as the Chief Justice, as the Inspector General of Police, it is not your duty to defend the government. Your duty and commitment must be to the nation, the country, and ensure that the laws of the country apply, irrespective of who is involved. But when we have people sitting in that office becoming something like party activists or spokesperson, it becomes disturbing. The last time I heard the Attorney General defending the Chief Justice, I was like, look, why would you do this? You should not do that. From, I don't know the legal standard, but from accountant's point of view, it is said that the accountants will not only be independent, but must be seen as independent. So I will not go defending the Chief Justice or speaking on behalf of the Chief Justice, but it is not limited to the Attorney General. Even the Chief Justice herself was singing praises of the President. I heard that one, I was like, who? Why would the Chief Justice say this? Once, in fact, it was shared on a platform that I belong, I disputed it. I said, forget about it, don't do that. Later on, somebody put it up. I got back to the person and said, have you checked on your part? Later on, Joy FM produced verbatim what he said. And I said, what is happening in this country? Do we all have to toe the same line instead of being in the middle and be neutral? So let me be honest with you, the standards are falling too low. It looks like we are falling into a bottomless pit. Every day you wake up, you say this is the lowest we can get. The next day, no, it even goes lower. And I don't know where we are going to end it.
Based on what you've heard, do you think he should leave his office?
If I were he, I think to save his image, he should leave his office, except if what is being said is not true. If it is true, and I've even heard Mr. Adam Bona saying that tape is not doctored, and a whole lot of things, you know. And even in that tape, I heard something like he himself is saying that I hope I'm not being recorded. I said, there's something wrong. He himself knows he's saying. And you know, the same guy some few weeks ago advised Yoko not to investigate the money laundering issue. And I said, why would they have an attorney general who is like this? I thought attorney general should have encouraged them, go and investigate. If you don't find anything, so be it. If you find something, you go ahead with it. But if you have an attorney general who seems to be protecting one side, I don't think it is right. I'm not saying that only of the attorney general. It should be the same with the auditor general, the same with the inspector general of police, chief justice, and all those public office holders.
Having said that, my producer just drew my attention to something. You commented on the petition, the purported petition against the OSP. Have you read Mr. Martinamidu's latest episode?
Yes.
Okay. He seems to be denying knowledge of the petition. You expressed disappointment that he was the one who had submitted that petition. Do you get the same impression that we are all reporting, that he is essentially saying, I did not author a petition against him?
I saw something like that, and my sincere apologies to him if it is actually true that he didn't submit the petition. Because in principle, I will not do what was alleged to be done by him. But if he didn't do it, then my apologies. But if he did it, then it is my worry that he should be doing that. We vary in view. He may think it is okay, but I think it is not right. Like I said earlier, I believe he resigned out of his own will. So I don't think he should have a beef with the office holder. I believe that my successor had a hand in my being moved out of office. But I will not do anything on this earth to remove him from office, because what they did to me, which I don't like, I will not do it to my successor. So my sincere apologies to him if it turns out that it was a fake letter. There is nothing like a petition to the presidency, and the letter that we are told that was received from the Chief Justice, he's even doubting that one. If they are all not true, then a due and sincere apology are rendered to him.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. And I'm hoping that we get this opportunity for you to come in studio, because there's a lot to talk about, because I haven't even delved into the fight against corruption and how working with other anti-graft institutions. You highlighted that, but I feel if we have a much more extensive conversation in studio, we can delve into that a bit more, how that can be fixed.
Yeah. That is okay. Let's look for an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I wish you the same.
Mr. Daniel Yaw Domelevo is former Auditor General. In fact, when you mention the name Auditor General, everybody now mentions his name. He set a standard that will forever guide the occupier of that office. Anybody who is not able to live up to that standard would always be said not to have been doing their job properly. Well, we just had a conversation with him. Like I said, I promise we'll go back to the matter of the Attorney General and his woes, the issues being raised against him. We do have to take a break, but before we do that, I just want to ask you a few questions, especially if you have a ward in senior high school, or you are listening yourself and you are in senior high school. Have you failed in any of the WASSCE subjects, especially mathematics? So if you're a graduate, you failed in any of the WASSCE subjects, especially mathematics. Have you written the WASSCE a couple of times and continue to fail?
Baby.
Are you on vacation? Do you want to be part of the most intensive vacation class that will always put you ahead of your colleagues? Do you want admission to senior high school 1 and 2? they require an intensive evening or weekend class due to the nature of your job, then rush now to the renowned Center for Excellent Education, Ideal College for immediate admission. At Ideal College, we don't just talk, but walk the talk. We don't wait